everybody. Peter Greenberg here with our weekly global travel update, which, as you know, comes from all over the world. If you're wondering where I am right now, look behind me. We're coming to you from the Royal Montreal Curling Club, which just happens to be the oldest sporting club in North America. In fact, started back in 1807. No, they weren't here in 1807. They were actually curling on the frozen St. Lawrence River then. But since about 1892, they've been playing inside this building. We're here doing one of my television specials for public television and Amazon, part of our Travel Detective series. In fact, I was actually on the ice a little while ago, and nobody got hurt. I'm still here. I actually threw what they call a few rocks, those 42-pound granite stones, and I actually did a double, for those of you who understand curling. I'm very proud of myself. Beginner's luck. Nobody was injured, and I'm back talking to you because we have a lot to talk about today. So let's get going on that. And then we'll get to your questions and a few other things. But first and foremost, it's the continuing investigation into the Boeing 737 MAX 9. As you know, I've been all over this story way before the door blew out of the Alaska Airlines plane. And in fact, way before the two crashes on the other 737 MAX jets in Ethiopia and Indonesia. Why? Because there's a long-standing problem in the safety culture at Boeing and their relationship with their regulatory agency, otherwise known as the Federal Aviation Administration. Let's go back into history. Let's go back to 1935, when the FAA was established by an act of Congress. When that happened, it was given essentially a dual mandate which was impossible to perform. Mandate number one was to enact and then enforce safety regulations. And mandate number two was to, quote unquote, promote the business of aviation. How can you do both? That's a rhetorical question because we all know the answer. They can't. And that's been their inherent struggle and problem since the agency was started, because every time, with very few exceptions, that the FAA has been confronted with a serious safety problem as well as a serious safety solution, they tend to decide on the economic impact of either the manufacturer or the operator. They looked at them almost as their clients. The manufacturers and the operators are not the FAA's clients. We are. And therein lies the problem, which exists until this day. So now let's go back and talk about what's happened in the last week. It became very, very clear that nobody was watching the store during the manufacturing process of this particular model plane. There could be others, but we're just going to focus on this one now. And what did they discover? Loose bolts, missing bolts, things that hadn't been properly inspected at the assembly line. Now, the good news is the National Transportation Safety Board, which treated this not as an incident, but as an accident, did a full-fledged investigation. They do a great job. The NTSB guys are my heroes because it's their job to determine the probable cause in any accident. And what they were able to determine quite quickly was this was not a design flaw of the plane. It was not a materials flaw of the plane. It was an assembly line installation and manufacturing flaw of the airplane and of the company that made it. So we're back to square one yet on who's doing the inspections and how often they're being done. Now here comes the biggest problem of all. For decades, and I'm not exaggerating, manufacturers, not just Boeing, McDonnell Douglas and Douglas before them and Lockheed and Convair, you name it, were allowed to self-certify with what we call FAA designated inspectors. These are people who are basically in charge of either A, certifying the plane to be airworthy at the beginning of its construction, or inspecting the planes as they went down the assembly line to make sure everything was done properly. Here's the problem. The FAA designated inspectors were on the payroll of the manufacturers. It screams conflict of interest. And that's what we're talking about right now. If I built this chair that I'm sitting in right now, and then I certified it to you that it was safe, please do us all a favor, including me, don't sit in it, because it wasn't inspected by a third party that was independent. And here's the problem. The FAA doesn't have the resources, the funds, the staff, or apparently the initiative to hire the right people to do those inspections. So what's happened in the last, let's say, 72 hours? The FAA has announced they're doing a special audit, I use that word in quotes, of the manufacturing process at Boeing on the assembly line and the inspection work. Boeing has announced they're going to increase the frequency of the inspections. But the question still remains, who's doing the inspection. Even the FAA administrator said, we might consider getting an independent third party to do it. Might consider? This should be done from day one. And that's the problem we have right now. But it gets worse. I talked about this in previous weeks, but it bears repeating. It's not just the assembly line, it's not just the certification of airworthiness, it's the maintenance. How many airlines are outsourcing their maintenance to third-party operations, not even in the United States? Now, I want to be clear about something. I have no problem with that. I happen to have visited some of these operations. They do very good work. Here's the problem. Where's the oversight and the inspection? The FAA doesn't have the inspectors or the staff or the funds to go over there and inspect the work. Are we back to self-certification again? Apparently we are. But if you really want to hear something stupid, if an FAA inspector wants to go visit one of these places and inspect the work, he or she has to justify to the agency they have a really good reason to go. How about the really good reason to go is to inspect? But it gets even worse. Assuming that inspector gets permission to go, under FAA rules, they're required to give that inspection of that maintenance operation a 7-day notice that they're coming. That's like the health department telling the restaurant, we'll see you in the kitchen in a week. How much will that stainless steel be gleaming when they arrive? So we got some serious, basic, systemic problems here that have to get addressed. Now, we just acknowledged an anniversary last week, the 15th anniversary, hard to believe, of the Miracle on the Hudson, right? Sully Sullenberger, U.S. Air Flight 1549, an amazing story. And we can also celebrate something else. We've just celebrated the 30 safest years in aviation safety since commercial aviation began. So we may not be able to improve that batting average because it's that good. The real challenge is, can we maintain it? And we have stories like the ones I just shared with you. The answer is no. This is what we have to work on. So that's the first thing. The second item up for bids this week is the federal judge ruling in the JetBlue Spirit case. Remember, JetBlue wanted to merge with Spirit. I use the word merge in quotes as well, because there's a little background here. Spirit and JetBlue are two very different airlines, two very different customers, two very different cultures. Why would JetBlue want to merge with Spirit? Well, there's really a simple answer. It had nothing to do with operating two separate airlines or combining two separate cultures. It had nothing to do with that at all. It had to do with the fact that JetBlue wants to become a major international airline. And to do that, they need planes. Well, what does JetBlue fly? They fly Airbus aircraft, A320s, A321s. What does Spirit fly? A320s and A321s. If JetBlue would go to Airbus and say, we need 300 more planes, Airbus would have to tell them, you're going to wait for 8 or 9 years. But if they take over Spirit, they not only get the planes, they get pilots already trained to fly them. And overnight, they become a major player. Now, the Justice Department sued to block it, claiming that it was anti-competitive, that airfares would only go up. You may remember the famous leaked document that should have been redacted, but unfortunately wasn't, or maybe fortunately wasn't. An internal memo that basically said the minute JetBlue got this deal together, they would raise airfares by 40%. That didn't sit well with the judge either. He sided on the side of the U.S. Justice Department and their antitrust division, claiming this really was anti-competitive. It would knock out an ultra-low-cost carrier, Spirit, leaving only one left, Frontier. Ironically, it was Frontier that wanted to merge with Spirit until JetBlue came knocking with a better offer. So this case isn't over yet. Neither JetBlue nor Spirit has announced whether they're going to appeal the judge's ruling, so stay tuned. Spirit stock initially tanked about 60% on the news of the judge's ruling. JetBlue stock, for reasons I still don't understand, went up 4%. There's some cost involved in this deal if it doesn't go through, and those costs have to be borne by JetBlue. Some serious checks are going to be written if this ruling is allowed to stand. So stay tuned. We're not done yet, but at least now you know the background, and we've got one more coming. That's Hawaiian Air and Alaska Air, and whether or not the Justice Department is going to weigh in and try to block that merger as well. So more about that as we know more, but I just wanted to tell you that. Now, some good news. Domestic airfares, I told you this 2 weeks ago, I told you this 3 weeks ago. I was right, they're starting to drop. and they're starting to drop precipitously. We're seeing airfare sales now on some airlines starting at $39 on U.S. routes. Now, they're not popping up for long, but they're good through May. So check them out. We're talking JetBlue again and Southwest and some of the other carriers. So take a look at that. Now's the time to jump on those. International airfares, not so fast. They're still planning to go up about 10% this year. Everybody's still going over to Europe. They still can't wait to go, and they're still not being price sensitive. We'll see how long that lasts. But for the moment, at least, the data that we're looking at suggests that international airfares will go up about 10%, but domestic airfares on average will drop between 9 and 14%. So will, by the way, rental car rates, about 9 to 14%, and that's good. Hotel rates, it's market by market. I can't give you an average on that, but at least you know there's some good news for domestic travel. Now, earlier this week, I posted on my website that I was in Montreal, and Anthony, why don't you post that photograph of me with the baked goods? There I am. We're going to solve the mystery now. The age-old question, who's got the better bagels, Montreal or New York? And I'm speaking to you as a New Yorker, so I'm about to do something blasphemous. I got to tell you, the bagels in Montreal, they win. It's the water, and it's also the way they're made. There are a couple of places like St. Viateur where we actually shot that shot. They've been around since, I think, 1957. They're one of the last remaining wood-fired ovens where they hand-roll the bagels as well. And it makes a huge difference because they have the ovens, the wood-fired oven, and the hand-rolling, and the water with just a little honey. And makes a big difference. So there are other bakeries here that are just as great, like Fairmount, but St. Viateur has a special place for me. They're tiny, they're small, and when you walk in, you're not like looking at a counter with stuff in it. You're looking at the ovens. And it's you want hot bagels? You go there any night before 11 o'clock at night, you're getting hot bagels. All right, so I hope we solved that story, but we're not done yet because there's another food item that we're going to talk about. Now, yes, I'm a pescatarian, but I made a small exception earlier this week, and that exception was made at a place called Schwartz's Deli. They've been around even longer, and they're coming up on their 100th birthday in about 2 years. We call it in New York, when I used to eat meat, my favorite sandwich was hot pastrami on Swiss on rye with Russian dressing, right? I know some people out there might even agree with that. Out here, it's not called pastrami. It's called smoked meat. Don't look for Russian dressing. You're not going to find it. You will find the rye dressing and a lot of deli mustard. So what you get is a beautiful, I'm still going to call it pastrami sandwich on rye with mustard. It's amazing. And what they do at Schwartz's is then they give you the French fries. Not the French fries you see everywhere else. They hand peel them, they hand dice them, and slice them. They blanch them. They fry them once, then they put them in a cooler. They fry them twice, they put them in another cooler, and they fry them a third time. It's brilliant. Crunchy on the outside, really delicious on the inside. And if you really want to pig out like I did, you try to finish that sandwich. It's a two-fister. It is. But anyway, that's part of what we're shooting here in Montreal, talking about the hidden gems of this city, including the world's oldest, at least in North America, sporting club, the Royal Montreal Curling Club. Very cool. This place is open between September and May. They close for the summer because it's too difficult to keep the ice. But this is an amazing place, and I really want to thank them for letting us do our global travel update from here today. All right, let's go down the list and say hello to a few people, and then when we finish that, we got more to talk about. All right. Harriet and Jim were saying hello again from Richmond, Virginia. Lima, Ohio. Did I get it right? As opposed to Lima, Ohio. And Omar is saying hello from Montreal. He said, hey, Montreal rocks. You bet it does. Adrian is saying, morning from a chilly Huntington Beach, Surf City. Sue is saying, hi from snowy Bellingham, Washington. Curling is fun. Yes, it is. By the way, I spent 5 years in Madison, Wisconsin. Wisconsin is one of the curling capitals of America, right? Canada is the curling capital of the world as far as I'm concerned because everybody's familiar and comfortable on the ice. Here we go. Singer Island in Florida says, hi from Leslie. Robert saying, what are your thoughts about Frontier Airlines? Well, I just touched upon that a little bit. Let me give you a for instance to give you an idea of how crazy the situation is. Let's go back to the JetBlue Spirit deal. Let's say it went through. If it did go through, yes, JetBlue would have had to give up some landing slots in Boston and New York and make some other concessions, but that would leave only one ultra low cost carrier, Frontier. And everything being relative, all Frontier would have to do was raise their fares $60 a ticket. They'd still be the low cost carrier, but their profit margin would have gone through the sky. Anti-competitive in another way. We're not done yet, because now if they don't appeal that ruling and that ruling stands and the deal is done between Spirit and JetBlue, meaning not going to happen, what's to prevent Frontier from knocking on the door again to try to merge with Spirit? So watch this space. Okay. Colleen says, we'll be in Cinque Terre for 5 full days in May, primarily to hike the villages and learn how to make pesto. I'm thinking, oh, interesting. You know what? On that one, let me get back to you on that, because I don't want to speak out of school. And if you'll email me to peter@petergreenberg.com, Colleen, I'll try to give you some more specific information on that location. Joy's saying, what airport has the early morning nonstop flights to Dubai? I live in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Well, the only nonstop flights to Dubai, there are two actually. One is United Airlines, because they're partnered with Emirates, but I don't think they're on a morning flight. And I think they're not going out of Chicago. I'll have to check on that. Almost every Emirates flight that I know of that goes nonstop to Dubai goes in the late afternoon or late evening. So let me check on that for you as well. Gina says, hi from San Diego. I just returned from Maui. Alaska canceled both our outbound and returns due to the 737 MAX 9. But overall, they did a good customer service job to get us rebooked. Look, Alaska just got ranked, by the way, not counting the door plugs that fell out of the plane the other day, as the safest airline to fly in 2024 based on incidents, pilot training, cabin crew training, and a safety culture. So congratulations to them. Okay, here we go. Ramy, Peter, I need your email. Okay. Oh my goodness. Okay. Ramy, send me an email to peter@petergreenberg.com and I'll get you that information, okay? I love it. And congratulations to Debbie. Anna says the Department of Transportation oversees the FAA. They should ensure that these conflicts of interest don't exist. Anna, I couldn't agree more. This is going to end up in the courts. It's going to end up in Congress, because Congress is going to have to authorize additional budgets for the FAA to be able to do their job. And the FAA has to stop thinking about the airlines and the manufacturers as their clients. We are their clients. Let us not forget that. Okay. Debbie says, what's the best time to fly Miami to Lisbon, or should I go into Porto? Well, TAP does have nonstops to Porto, I know, at least from Newark that I know about. But bottom line is, if you want to go to Lisbon between now and May, then now's the time to buy it. Anytime after May to September, you're going to pay through the roof. But TAP tends to have lower fares than other airlines going through their other home cities, like British Airways or Air France. I think TAP does a very, very good job. And I will say that the wait time that we used to have at the Lisbon airport, which was outrageous once you got there to go through passport control, has gotten a little better. Okay. Michelle says, there's a great hand-rolled bagel shop in New Hyde Park, New York. Okay, I'll take your word for it. Okay. Okay, here's one. Makes you wonder what changed in the production of that door from the 737-900 to the MAX 9. The 900s have been flying for about 20 years. When will Boeing learn that a 737 can never be a 757? Interesting point. Let's go back into history. The 737 is the most widely used and operated plane in the world right now. The plane itself goes back over 60 years in terms of when it first came out, the very first Boeing 737-100 model. Then we had the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5. We're now at the 900 model, and every chance Boeing got, they said, let's stick with a good thing by continuing to extend and enlarge the fuselage. And they got into trouble when they got to the 900 series, especially the MAX. because they were adding so many seats to the plane and stretching the fuselage so much, it changed the center of gravity. And by changing the center of gravity, they had to put in more powerful engines and put them further forward on the plane. That affected the angle of attack. That started a new system called MCAS, which was supposed to correct that one small problem. Boeing never told anybody about MCAS. They never put in a second redundant system. They never trained the pilots on how to operate it. And worse, they never trained the pilots on how to override it. That's why we understand the reasons for those two crashes in Indonesia and Ethiopia. So if you're going to add so much to a plane, it becomes a new plane. It requires complete new certification. And Boeing was trying to avoid that. I'm not just saying that, that's a fact. Boeing was trying to avoid that to speed up their production to deliver to their customers. And that's where they got into trouble. Okay. Hello from Ridgeway, Canada to Mary. And Scott says, greetings from Chicago. Myra's saying, greetings from Miami. Gina's saying, I love Montreal. There's so much to love Montreal. I love it. I love the French flair. I love the cuisine. Yes, I love the smoked meats, and I'm a pescatarian. But I also love the history here. One of the most exciting experiences I ever had in Montreal happened about 20 years ago. I was staying at the Ritz-Carlton, the old Ritz-Carlton, which is now part of Ritz-Carlton Marriott, but then it wasn't. It goes back, that Ritz-Carlton goes back over 100 years. And about a 3-minute walk down the street was the Museum of Fine Arts. And I had a couple of hours to kill, and I thought I'd walk down and see their exhibit before I took my flight. I walked into this museum. I was so stunned by what I saw. I changed my flight schedule. I stayed 3 more days and went back to that museum every single day. Why? Because some ingenious person here in Canada had figured out to get Da Vinci's drawing books, his sketchbooks, what he was contemplating. And whatever he was drawing in those books, what did they do? They built it. Oh my goodness. What happened when they built it? They made some amazing discoveries. Discovery number 1, Da Vinci actually invented the helicopter but didn't know it. Discovery number 2, he invented some amazing support systems for buildings that are still in use today, but didn't know it. And the list goes on and on and on. So as I went from room to room in the museum, I was seeing the models that they built out of his drawings. It was amazing because it allowed me and you and everybody else to connect the dots. You know, everybody used to say to me, oh, well, who'd you like to have dinner with just once? And people would say, like, you know, Albert Einstein. No, hands down, it's Da Vinci. I mean, forget the Mona Lisa. First of all, it's this big. Second of all, look what this guy did. Oh my goodness. So I've always had a warm spot in my heart for the Metropolitan, for the Museum of Fine Arts here in Montreal and for Montreal in general at any time of the year, right? This is the off season, some of the best times to come, right? You're not here for a suntan. You're here to experience the culture and have some great times, and this is where it happens. All right, let's keep going here. Tim is saying, looking forward to seeing you in Atlanta. Where can I find in for positioning flights? Okay, first of all, let me just tell you this. Speaking of seeing me, I'm now speaking at all the travel and adventure shows. The first one's going to be this weekend in Denver. It's coming up day after tomorrow. There's a little poster that's on the screen. That's January 20th and 21st at the Denver Convention Center. That's followed next weekend at the Javits Center in New York City on the 27th and 28th. The following weekend in Los Angeles at the Los Angeles Convention Center. And then after that, we're in San Francisco, we're in Atlanta, we're in Dallas, we're in Phoenix, we're in Washington, D.C. So go to travelandadventureshows.com. All the schedules are there, and I hope I get a chance to see you guys. And anybody in the Denver area this weekend, please stop by. It'll be fun to talk and catch up on everything. Your question, Tim, was, how or where can I find for positioning flights to Europe to or from Atlanta? Well, I don't know what you meant by positioning flights to Europe. I know about positioning cruises, but I need more information. Where in Europe do you want to go from Atlanta, and do you have to go on Delta? I'm just asking. Get back to me on that, Tim, and I'll try to help you out. Okay. Melanie's saying, just back from New Year's in Prague. What a stunning city. I couldn't agree more. If you've never been to Prague, Prague didn't have to reinvent itself after World War II. It was spared the bombing. And it's such an amazing city. I just wish they didn't have a Starbucks on every third corner. That's a little disturbing. But other than that, what an amazing, amazing city. Okay, my friend Captain Jonathan Atkin, FAA mess is highlighted with its drone pilot licensing. I hold the Part 107 remote pilot license. Nothing in the licensing does FAA require evidence of drone pilot expertise. Here we go again. Thank you for sharing that, Jonathan. Jonathan happens to be an amazing photographer, with or without the drone, by the way. Kelly says, curling, the only sport with benches and ashtrays halfway down the ice. Well, you forgot one. By the way, the etiquette of curling, I'm just learning this. Everybody's very polite. Even if your opponent gets a good shot, you say, good shot. But if you lose, the winner buys you the beer. So you can imagine, based on my curling expertise, how many beers I'm getting today. Yeah, I love it. Okay, Iris says, greetings from Iris and your Mikado friends in New York. We love Mikado. Say hi to Dennis, by the way, and Anna. Okay. Scott says, on a lighter, humorous note, and because it hasn't been asked for a while, yeah, this is the one. When is the gem opening? Okay, I have three-word answer for you. We're talking about the Grand Egyptian Museum in Cairo. I think they're taking Quaaludes to stay awake in Egypt right now. The answer to your question is 3 words. I don't know. And it should be followed quite soon with, I don't care. Because they should have opened this 2 years ago. I do not know what the president is waiting for. The museum has been done. It's been finished. I was inside their workshops at the museum over 2.5 years ago, and they were already basically done. So I'm a little concerned. But if I do find out, I'll let you know. Okay. What did I think of Alaska Airlines CEO's video message to the world? Well, I'm a big fan of getting out in front of a story, and I think he did a pretty good job. But remember, the airline CEOs have a responsibility here, just like the CEO of Boeing has a responsibility. And the FAA needs to make sure they take their responsibility seriously. Look, let's be honest here and let's be fair. There's not an airline CEO that I know that would willingly get up in the morning saying, let's fly an unsafe plane. That doesn't happen. However, I'll do this analogy for you. I know it's silly, but I'll do it anyway. If I'm holding up this pen with 2 fingers, and all of a sudden the pen drops. Oh, the pen really dropped this time. Hold on. And the pen drops, and everybody dies. The National Transportation Safety Board comes in and investigates the dropping of the pen, right? I'm using this as a plane. And they may not know why it happened, so they'll investigate. And in determining the probable cause of the crash, they find out you didn't need 2 fingers to hold it, you needed all 3. And the 3rd finger is available, and then you know that, and the operator of the pen makes the conscious decision not to install the 3rd finger. That's criminal negligence. That's like the folks at Ford when they knew the Pinto gas tank was going to explode and it could be fixed with a 25-cent part, and they chose to save the money. That's called criminal negligence. That's what we're bordering on right now. If you know you have a problem, and you know there's a solution to that particular problem, and you know that solution can be implemented, and then you make a conscious choice not to implement it, hey, I got your cell picked right out for you. So that's where we are right now. Okay. All right, Christopher says hi from Miami. Recently flew Iberia from Miami to Madrid. Very disappointed that my global entry TSA pre-check was useless here at Miami. I'll tell you why. Not every international airline participates with either a pre-check or any kind of, fast track in terms of getting through security. They have to apply. They have to basically pay for it, and a lot of these airlines don't want to do it, especially the international carriers. Now, there's some terminals that will allow you to do it if the airline will input your TSA trusted traveler number, but not everybody does it, and it's a problem. Okay, Veronica wants me to say my email very slowly. Here we go, Veronica. Peter Greenberg, GREENBERG.com. Okay? Joan says, greetings from the Bay Area. Montreal is on my wish list soon. You'll love it. Kimberly, wish you had been at the Chicago Travel Show. I would, believe it or not, I was traveling, but I heard it was a great show. But I'm at every other show, guys, so please come and see me. Okay, Tim says, I'm trying to go to London in late April. Going on Delta would be nice, but not necessary. Well, here's what I do in situations like this. If you're in a city that's dominated by one airline, Atlanta being Delta, Chicago being United, Dallas being American, sometimes it's cheaper, it's a little longer, but it's cheaper to fly out of that city to another city where you can get a lower cost airline on a nonstop. So for example, the round trip flights between Atlanta and JFK may not be expensive if you plan it right and you plan it in advance, right? So now, when you get to JFK, you can take like Norse Atlantic to London, or you can take La Compagnie if you want to fly business class to Paris. But first, you got to get to where those planes are flying from. That's the key. Okay. Lee says, from Franklin, Tennessee. We like Franklin, Tennessee. Best time to buy international for June travel. Well, if it's before June 15th, then you can basically start looking now. But if it's after June 15th, you got a problem, because that's when the prices start skyrocketing, and they may have already done so in their computer systems. Okay? Gina wants everybody to come back to San Diego in 25. I'll let them know. Hold on a second. Here we go. We're scrolling again. I'm going to come back up. All right. Give me a second here. I've got some questions that you guys have asked, and then we'll go from there. Here's one from Phil. Which cruise line do you think is the best in terms of, say, sustainability for now? Well, a couple of them are. You know, it's about fuel source and the type of fuel they're using, and of course getting to zero carbons. Carnival has a couple of their ships now on LNG. That's a pretty good start. I mentioned Silver Sea and Silver Nova. That's state of the art in terms of propulsion and fuel source, and they're going to get to carbon zero or carbon neutral very soon. You're seeing that almost every cruise line with a ship coming out of their shipyards now is doing a much better job on focusing on a zero tolerance policy on waste, garbage, and emissions. One of the things that cruise lines should be doing, if they have something good to show, and most of them do now, and you should ask for it if you're a passenger, ask for a tour, not of the galley, not of the bridge. When you're on the ship, saying, hey, can I have a tour of your entire deck devoted to waste management? That's the cool tour, because that's where you see how they're treating wastewater, nothing going over the side, how they're treating plastics, how they're treating paper, how they're treating glass, how they're not burning anything, how they're compacting and crushing everything. It's pretty amazing. It's eye-opening, actually. So they're doing a much, much better job. They still have a way to go, and what they're really waiting for are those new fuel systems to come on board. It's no different than SAF, Sustainable Aviation Fuel, with the airlines. We know it works. They've already tested it, right? The planes have been flying on vegetable oil for a while. But the cost of those fuels has not come down to a reasonable price yet because of the volume. We need the refineries to really change gears and start producing in volume. When they do that, the price comes down, and the airlines can then make that transition. And the same thing applies to the cruise lines. All right. Eric says, have I ever taken the Bright Line in Florida? I'm wondering how it compares to Amtrak. I have taken the Bright Line in Florida. In fact, I'm about to do it again between the Orlando airport and Palm Beach. It's great. They've done a really good job. And they're continuing to expand. And the same Bright Line people are now looking at what? LA to Las Vegas. Why not? It really works. So congratulations to them. They just opened up the new line that'll take you right to the Orlando airport. That's a pretty cool thing. Takes a lot of cars off the freeways and the interstates. Okay. Lou says, I've heard Niagara Falls is very overrated. Do I agree? You know what? I think every place is overrated if you approach it the wrong way. You have to figure out specifically what your needs are, what your goals are, what your interests are, and then it gets down to timing. I'm a huge believer in a contrarian approach to travel. I love the off season. I'm in Montreal in January. What does that tell you? I'm not standing in line, I'm having a great time. And I'm experiencing things like curling that you can't do in the summer. So Niagara Falls is not overrated. It may be overcrowded at certain times of the year, and that's where you come in to be smart and actually be a contrarian traveler. It's really as simple as that in most cases. Okay, here we go. Hold on a second, we got more here. Okay, from Janet. I'm a digital nomad working remotely and looking to live abroad. Would Barcelona issue a visa for U.S. citizens who are not studying abroad? If you look at our website, petergreenberg.com, we just did a story on all the countries that are issuing special digital nomad visas, ranging from Barbados to the Cayman Islands to Estonia to Portugal, and it'll give you a list of not only how much it costs, but the validity of that visa. Most of them don't go beyond 2 years. Most of them are a year. Now, one of the most expensive ones is Barbados. They want $2,000, but if you look at Dubai, it's like $600. So check out that list, and I hope that will be helpful to you. Here's one. Okay. Matt says 2024 travel plans include Prince Edward Island and Nova Scotia. Do you have tips for these areas? You bet. I love Nova Scotia. I'm particularly fond of Halifax. I will recommend an airline you might want to travel to. I don't even know where you're based, but it's my little favorite airline in Canada, and it's not Air Canada. Gee, what a surprise. Air Canada's MO is, sir, how many ways can we lose your bag today? Think I'm kidding? A successful flight on Air Canada is when your bags actually arrive on the same flight yours do, or that you do. But Porter Air, how cool is this airline, right? They fly, first of all, to my favorite little airport in the world, Billy Bishop in Toronto. But they've just added jet service and nonstop flights, even from where I am right now, from Montreal to the West Coast. So things are getting better, all right? And of course, in Halifax, such great history there, such great museums, such a great stopping point for going north and east again. But most interesting to me about Halifax is the people. I want to say something to all my Canadian friends, and I mean this with all sincerity. You have nothing to apologize for. I can't tell you how many times I've been in certain Canadian cities, including Halifax, where the first thing somebody says to me is, well, I hope we'll meet your standards. I hope we won't disappoint you. Disappoint me? This is my 8th trip back. I love it. Canada is still the great undiscovered country. How big is Canada, by the way? It's still undiscovered. And I couldn't recommend it highly enough. Okay. What is this now? Oh, Francine says, I waited in line for a rental car in Fort Lauderdale for 3 hours. Is this the new normal? Well, I'm going to give you a little hint. I try not to rent cars at airports. First of all, they're more expensive because the rental car company has to pay higher rents. Second of all, if you just take regular, public shuttles downtown and rent from downtown, you'll get a better deal every time, and you won't wait in line. There you have it. All right, let me go to the photo of the week. You'll love this one. Where was this taken? First of all, Carol Rosenthal, thank you for this. Where did she take it? In Skogafoss. Where's that? In Iceland. That's right. Right before the the volcanoes erupted again. She says, often I have a tendency to avoid capturing people in landscape shots, but when you are trying to illustrate the magnitude of a subject, they really come in handy. Look at the lower part of the picture, and you'll see exactly what she means. Congratulations, Carol. I love this photo. And of course, if you think you have a photo that qualifies as the photo of the week, you know what to do. You send it to photo contest at petergreenberg.com. Let's scroll down a few more things, and then I got some housekeeping notes for all of you. Our radio show this week, coming to you from the Peninsula Hotel in Beverly Hills, California. And if you're wondering if I had a good time when I was there, roll this video. It's coming. That was my one shot at being a celebrity. No, it wasn't me. People were taking pictures of the car. That's a 1957 Mercedes convertible. The hardtop version of that is the Gullwing for those people who are car nuts. What an amazing car. So tune in this Saturday, starting at 10:05 Eastern. If you can't find the radio show in your market, that's easy. We also stream it live. Just tune in to petergreenberg.com. You'll hit the radio icon, and we stream it starting at 10:05 in the morning. You also know that I'll be appearing this weekend in Denver at the Denver Convention Center on Saturday and Sunday. Check those local listings, and of course all the other cities that I'll be speaking in for the rest of this spring. I hope to see you there. And last but not least, a big shout out to the folks here at the Royal Montreal Curling Club. They're right behind me there. Amazing group of people, and about 160 members, and they've been doing this since 1807, the oldest sporting club in North America. Happy to be here. Happy I got on the ice. Happy I'm not in orthopedic surgery, and happy to talk to all of you today. I'm getting on a plane tonight, actually tomorrow morning, but I will see you next week for our global travel update. Hopefully I'll see some of you in Denver. Hopefully I'll see some of you on the radio. And please have a great rest of the week. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you next week. And thank you, Anthony, for working the boards out in California.